are two big rule changes for those immigrating to France in 2026, but they don't apply to everyone. This video is about figuring out
if that's you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Raina.
I'm Jason. We're Baguette Bound. We talk about moving, adjusting, and enjoying life in France.
First up, what are the changes?
What are they?
Yes.
Okay, so there are higher level language requirements for any visa that required language requirements before. So if there was an A1 requirement before, now it's A2. If it was A2, now it's B1. If it was B1, now it's B2. We actually made a video last year, you can find it up here, that covered all of these in a lot more detail, so you can check that one out right now if you want to.
So also a difference with these is that, for example, the work visas like the French salary or the entrepreneur professions liberales, before the requirement was A1, and as long as you were working towards your language requirements, like going to your classes, you could show that you were making progress. It was actually didn't matter if you passed the test and had results to share. That has also changed. So now, not only is the language requirement at A2, but you actually have to prove that you have passed A2.
Okay, in addition to the language requirements, there is a new civics test. The civics test is a 40-question multiple choice test. In order to pass it, you have to hit 80% or more. Passing once, this is good forever once you pass this, the civics test. But different visas have different types of civics tests. There are actually 3 different civics tests. We'll get into that.
Yeah. All right, so we'll talk more about the tests in a minute, but first let's just talk about who these apply to and who is exempt.
Okay, you don't have to do any of these to get your initial visa when you are applying for it in the US or in your home country. These requirements only apply once you're renewing, changing, or asking for a multi-year residence permit once you're here in France.
So, the big takeaway here is that you're in the US asking for your visa, doing your business plan, whatever that visa is, you don't need to pass any of these things to get that initial 1-year visa and get yourself here to France. It's only at the first renewal asking for visas that cover multiple years.
When you do that renewal here in France, or you change your visa here in France, it's the only time it's required.
Yeah, so initially for that first one, these don't apply.
Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. Who else is exempt?
Anyone over 65.
Woo!
Congratulations.
You're getting even more than your senior discount these days.
Yeah, there's no language or civics test required for any visa type or any residency permit if you're over 65. So this would include the 10-year long-term residency card that you could be eligible for after 5 years of legal residency in France on a visitor visa. However, over 65 is not exempt when you're applying for citizenship. And I think that sometimes you see these online. These two things are being confused because over 65, there are
requirements for citizenship.
Yes.
No, in other words, nobody is exempt except for a few disabilities from these tests for citizenship. But over 65 is exempt for all of the multi-year residency type permits and cards.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
So, okay, who else is exempt?
Also exempt, everyone, literally everyone on a 1-year long stay visitor visa. It doesn't matter your age, your status, anything like that. If you're on a 1-year long stay visitor visa, there is no language or civics requirement for that card. And currently the 1-year long stay visitor visa can be renewed each year, every year, 1 year at a time, indefinitely. And at the moment, there's no language or civics test part of that renewal process either.
Right. So at this moment, you could just keep renewing those 1 year at a time forever.
Forever, if you wanted to.
All right. One last group.
One last group, the talent visa holders. If you have a talent visa holder, or if you're a family member of a talent visa holder and you have the family talent visa card, those people are exempt as well.
Yeah.
Now remember that changing your visa here could trigger these requirements if you are under 65. So just because you arrived on an exempt visa or had an exempt visa through a few renewals doesn't mean that that exemption will carry over to other types of residency cards that you might ask for or that you might want to change to. Also, if you are already here in France and you already have one of these multi-year or pluriannual cards that would require the test now, if you're just renewing that same type of card, you are still exempt. This didn't come, this isn't being applied to all of these cards. It's only that first renewal of that type of card. So if you've already done a first renewal, you can continue to renew it without having to show these requirements.
Yeah, so those are the only people who are grandfathered in, right? They've already asked for their multi-year card. They're already on this card. They're just asking for like their second renewal or third or however long you've been here renewal. So for example, for me, right now I have a 4-year pluriannual card. When I go to renew that card, I will not be asked to meet these new requirements because it's not the first time I'm asking for that multi-year card. That is the situation where you're kind of already grandfathered in.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, once I get to 5 years, if I asked for the 10-year card to, a long-term residency card, often these are compared to like US green cards. In that case, that's the first time I'm asking for that card. It's a different card that I'm on. It's for multiple years. I am going to be held to those requirements. So I'll need to take the civics test and I'll need to meet the B1 language requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are a lot of exemptions.
Yeah.
So congratulations. If any of these are you can relax and stop watching. There are plenty of other things to do to get to France, but these are not things you have to worry about.
Exactly. Go start like purging and packing.
Yeah.
Okay. So who do they apply to?
Okay, so all of these changes apply to those requesting an immigration status or card that is good for more than 1 year before you have to renew them. So the carte de séjour pluriannual or the multi-year residency cards. Also, the carte de resident or the 10-year card.
Yeah, those are often called the same thing. They're the same thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. The carte de resident is the one that people will also call the 10-year card. Same thing.
Correct.
All right. So I think among those of you who usually watch us that are planning to move from the US to France, probably those of you that are most affected by this are the people who are going to be coming to France on the entrepreneur professions liberale or self-employment visas, or maybe if you're lucky, one of the salary visas. So again, these have multi-year possibilities for renewal of 2 to 4 years when it's time for that first renewal. Because usually you get 1 year, and then once you get here at your first renewal, you can ask for multiple years. Also, if you are lucky enough to have already been in France for 5 years and are eligible to apply for your carte de resident or 10-year card, as we talked about a few minutes ago, you're changing, and these new requirements would also apply to you if you're under 65.
Yeah, so lastly, and this requirement may be still a little bit murky, but the documentation that we will link to below, and all this information is going to be linked below, seems to indicate that if you are getting a multi-year card based on being the spouse of a French citizen, these tests for language and civics will apply to you too. But this does not appear to be the case for the spouses of EU citizens. So EU citizens who move here and spouses of EU citizens who have the spouse of an EU citizen residency card, those do not have the language or civics requirements associated with them. I don't know. Yeah. If that kind of surprised you, it surprised us too. And I think it's important to say that this is all just coming online. These tests have just started, and the way that it's being implemented may evolve for sure. So in a nutshell, if you're getting this for the first time, a residency card that is good for longer than 1 year, and you don't fall under one of these exemptions that we talked about at the beginning, these tests will probably apply to you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about this, we are linking to all the documentation, like official documentation that we can find. So look there first, right? Yeah. You may have to translate it with your browser and, kind of think it through, but that is the best place to figure it out.
One of the links is really useful. It allows you to choose your type of visa, choose your type of residency card, and then it filters through to see what are the requirements for the initial card, for the renewal. So you can kind of just step through each of these and just look what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Okay. So let's talk about how this actually works, like in practice.
In real life.
In real life. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to take the entrepreneur professions liberale self-employment visa kind of for example, because I think that's one of the most common ones that might apply to you. And, it applies to me. So first of all, it's usually when you apply for it initially in the US, you do your business plan, you ask for your visa. Usually it's issued for 1 year to start with. And again, there's no language or civics test required to get this first visa from the US and move to France.
Right.
After you've arrived in France and you're getting established, at the time of your first renewal, which you can start the process of that around 9 months after you're here, you can request a carte de séjour pluriannual for either 2 or 4 years. When you make this request, first, the prefecture is just going to check that you're meeting the requirements of your visa. So,
right. So in this entrepreneur professions liberale example, did you set up your business? Are you paying your taxes? Did you go to the required medical screening? Did you go to your assigned civics days? Those basics, if you can answer yes, you're meeting the requirements, then congratulations.
yes.
The French officials can renew your visa, turn it into a residency card for at least 1 year. But in order for them to be able to grant you that multi-year length, either 2 or 4, you have to have also passed the A2 test and the civics test for the multi-year card.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, almost like a little top-up, right? You've got to be doing all the things that you would need to be doing anyway that, you always have had to do to meet the requirements for that visa.
Doing the old things.
Doing the old things. We'll get you 1 year. But then if you want to get that multi-year, you've got to have the A2 certificate and pass the civics test. Now, do not panic.
Yeah.
If you do not pass A2 French that first year, or you fail the civics exam, it's still possible to get a renewal. It's just that they're only going to give you 1 year. And you can do these 1 year renewals up to 3 times. So that means you're going to have a total of probably
4 full years, really.
Yeah, to get to A2 and pass the civics exam before it will actually affect your ability to stay in France. So, obviously it's amazing if you can do it that first year and get that multi-year renewal, because then you don't need to think about it for a while. But if you can't, do not panic. There's a lot that's happening in your first year, and sometimes it's just, it's hard to get all of these things. So, all right, let's talk about the actual test.
Yeah, so the actual brand new civics test that's coming out. It's 40 questions. All of these tests at all the different levels are going to cover kind of the same 5 areas. 1, principles and values of the French Republic. There's going to be 11 questions on this subject. Number 2, institutions and the political system. There's going to be 6 questions. Number 3, rights and responsibilities. 11 questions. Number 4, history, geography, and culture of France. 8 questions on that. And lastly, number 5, living in French society. 4 questions. So as a little test-taking strategy, you can see that some of these subjects are more important than others. So
right,
if you're going to be
studying,
studying,
more questions.
Focus on the important ones.
Yeah, you have to pass with 80%, which is what I saw this before. Is it 32 questions?
32 out of 40.
Yeah. So you can miss 8.
Yeah, you get 8.
That's how I like to think about that. All right, now there are links for what to study in each of these areas on the French website that, again, we've linked to in the description. And I actually found this website that they just released about all this.
Helpful.
Yeah, it's really well put together. So again, you're going to have to translate this. It's all in French if you're not comfortable with that level of French yet. But you could still start studying these things in English so that you understand the concepts. And then as your French improves, move to rereading the study material in French. Now, there are 3 different tests, one for each level. I think we mentioned this earlier in the video, but they correspond to before you ask, yes, the civics test is in French. But where I was going with this is the level of French that it's written in will coordinate with the level of French that's required for the card you're asking for. So for example, if you're asking for that first pluriannual card that requires A2 French, the civics test that you're going to take is going to be in A2. If you're asking for citizenship, the civics test you're going to take is going to be in B2, which is also required for citizenship. So they are going to sync up that way, so you don't have to worry about that part.
Each of these tests are going to be good for life.
Yay!
So if you pass it once, you're great. You're done. It will cover all renewals on that type of card. But if you do change to a different type of card that has a different type of test, remember there's 3 that we just talked about, you will have to pass the test for that type of card. So passing the multi-year test doesn't mean you have already passed the citizenship test. You're going to have to come back and take that one later.
And for example, I'm exempt right now if I just renew my professions liberale visa when it's time. But if I want to, by that time, I'll have been here long enough, I could ask for the 10-year card. But if I do that, even though I'm exempt from the other test, I'll have to take the one for the 10-year card.
You could probably pass that one today. You know France. Okay, but you have to go to the testing center to actually take the test, and there are locations all throughout France. You can look them up online. The cost for the test is set by each individual testing center. Most of the ones that we've looked for, at least at this moment, were priced at around 70 euros for the test.
Yeah.
As we said, the test is in French. It is digital.
Multi-choice.
Your keyboard is going to be the AZERTY keyboard. The
French keyboard.
One thing to keep in mind is you might want to have a little bit of comfort with a different type of keyboard before you go. You don't want to be the first time you've seen that French keyboard. So just be aware of that.
You're going to need to schedule these tests in advance, the civics test, right? Because like when we were looking at testing centers, sometimes it was, a couple weeks or even, 3 weeks, a month out. And I don't know how this will change as more and more people need to take these tests. So make sure you give yourself enough time to take the test, maybe fail it the first time, it's a learning curve, and then take it again and still have your results by the time you renew. Now, the awesome thing is we have heard these tests usually come back in 24 to 48 hours.
The civics test.
The civics test, yeah. So, and you can take it as many times as you want, right? It's going to cost you a little money each time, but as long as you can take it once a day, but you can take it as many times as you need.
Yeah. No penalty for failing once, twice, 10 times.
Exactly.
Yeah, so in all of these, as we said, when you go to the renewal process, you're going to have to digitally upload the certificates that show that you have passed the civics test and you have passed the language test.
So what do you use to prove that you've passed the language test, now that we've talked about the civics one?
Yep. And so for the language requirements, it's going to be a similar process, right? You have to prove these in a very similar way. You have to acquire a certificate from a certified testing center. There are 2 different types of qualified language tests that you can take and pass in order to prove your level. These 2 types of tests are the TEF, the TEF, or the DELF, the DELF. TEF and DELF. So what's the difference between these 2? Why would you choose one over the other? Why are there 2 tests?
Yeah. So I don't know all of the nuance and minutia about exactly how they're broken up and how they're different, but I can tell you these 2 things that are the most significant. One, the TEF is good for 2 years from when you take it. The DELF, the DELF, is good forever. The TEF, our understanding is that you just schedule it and you go in and you just keep doing questions until you can't anymore, and then they assign you a level, right?
Everyone at every level takes the same test.
Same test.
You just keep answering questions until you get to the point that you just can't answer anymore.
Just see how far you can go. So I think sometimes some people who aren't sure of their level, they're hoping that maybe they could test a little higher.
Absolutely.
And you might walk away.
If you have a lot of uncertainty over your level, this is a good one to start with.
Yeah, but it's only going to be good for 2 years. So whatever it was, you're going to have to prove it again or take it something again in 2 years. The DELF, on the other hand, you have to choose the level you're taking, and then it's you've got to pass that bar, right? So I've got to choose, I'm going for B1, I'm going to take the B1 test, and I've got to pass the bar for the B1. So that's the main differences, I would say. Otherwise, you can look into it more.
So if any of this applies to you, and at this point you're feeling a little bit deflated, take heart. It's all okay. Remember that they're not going to kick you out in the first year if you don't pass these tests in advance of your first renewal.
Yeah, it's okay. Take a breath. Yeah. That said, it's true that more is now going to be expected of you as you're setting up your life and business in France, or if you're asking to stay in a more permanent capacity. So I will tell you, I speak from experience. If you can get that multi-year renewal the very first year, it's, oh my gosh, the relief, because you don't have to think about it now for 2 or 4 years. So my best advice for anyone who's going to be subject to these requirements is that getting this multi-year renewal your mission, your year 1 mission, okay? So don't plan a ton of travel. Don't buy a house that needs a complete renovation. Maybe don't even be shopping for a house. Just find a stable, nice rental, and get here, get your business set up, get all the administrative stuff done with that. Get to your A2 French, study for your civics exam. And then, you can just with more confidence approach that first renewal. And I realize this sounds like super unfun for your first year in France. But get your multi-year renewal, and then you can do all that stuff.
And the nice thing is those investments in either French civics stuff or French language, that's going to benefit you every day, even outside of these exams. They're not throwaway. It's all really valuable stuff, if you can understand what's the society that I'm living in, and get some additional language skills from that additional time. So huge investment, very worth it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's going to make everything else in life better and easier all the rest of the time you're here. But it's hard because you're so excited when you get here.
It just takes time.
You want to do all the things.
And of course, you do not have to wait on the French until you get here, right? Mm-hmm. If you feel like you're at a level of French that's you're ready to take a test, you can take a DELF test anytime. that you're ready. Even if you're still in the US, still preparing to move to France, still a ways out, you can take these tests anytime you want.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that like you could check off before you ever get here and it's just done.
Yeah. And if you've been running a business in the US or if you've already lived in France for a while, you're very used to facing down challenges and overcoming hurdles.
Yeah.
This is one more, but it's no different.
Yeah. You keep working on your French, study. You can do this. You know, this is like always, we're in this with you and you can do it.
You can, yeah. And if you're exempt from all this, congratulations, relax, go have a beer.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
A bientôt.